Hi, I'm Merrylin LeBlanc with Moonwise. Next Saturday, the day after Christmas, four of us astrologers living here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, are inviting you to join us in a Zoom session about the year ahead, 2021, entitled The Gates of Hell Are Opened. Today, we'll give you a preview of what we'll be addressing. Joining me today and in that event are Aaron Sullivan, Michael Bartlett, and Daniel Fiverson. You'll hear a bit about what each of us will be addressing in the Zoom session on December 26th, beginning at 12 p.m. Mountain Time. So, Daniel Fiverson, will you begin? What will you be talking about that day
Thanks
after
for,
Christmas?
thank you for the intro, Mary Lynn. I would like to talk about dwarf planet Eris, who, from my perspective, in my humble opinion, is not getting the airplay that she deserves, and I understand why. She's quite difficult to deal with, um, but she is responsible for a lot of what is happening in our world, and I'd like to address it. The major transits that are getting all the attention for next year are the crisis-laden squares from Uranus and Taurus to Jupiter and Saturn and Aquarius, which happens to be also ruled by Uranus, according to many astrologers. To complicate this dynamic, um, Saturn is also that co-ruler. The Jupiter-Saturn conjunction on May 21st has already been heralded as a major climax event for 2020. And we are already seeing the portents in the news as Donald Trump initiates dramatic pressures on the democratic process in the United States. It's important to note that Jupiter and Saturn are towing Pluto in Capricorn close behind them. And this single transit alone of Jupiter through Saturn's sign has altered life on Earth since 2008. Pluto in Capricorn squared Eris in Aries a couple of days ago for the fifth time this year. This aspect in these signs has not occurred since the axial age 2,700 years ago, when Buddha, Confucius, Lao Tzu, Isaiah, Pluto, and Homer walked on the earth. All of the major thought streams of Western civilization came onto the planet at that time. This should give us hope and give us some perspective in terms of what is really happening, and get beyond all of the blow by blows that we've had to duck and learn to deal with as this year has unfolded. This dynamic of Pluto squaring Eris in these signs has been the hand grenade in a steel box, the undercurrent that has been the cause of all the suffering that we have experienced in 2020. But it has also been the evolutionary pulse that is moving the entire planet forward, exposing 6,000 years of patriarchy. There are going to be two more passes in August and October of 2021. We're not done with this transit, not by any means. And as we know as astrologers and as people who follow astrology also know, that the cycle of these dynamics really only begins to unfold when the last conjunction or the last aspect has occurred. I will be updating the details of the path that Eris has pursued since 2015, when she met up with Uranus, and that will be part of the story, up to the present day in the panel discussion that the four of us are going to have on December 26th. Future generations are going to look back on these times, and they're going to note the remarkable events that we are living through. It's all going to be okay in the end. If it isn't okay, it's because it's not the end.
Well, if we want to hear more that Daniel has to say about Eris and what's happening in 2021, go to brownpapertickets.com and search for The Gates of Hell Are Open. And you'll see the four of us in terms of our names: Daniel Fiverson, Aaron Sullivan, Michael Bartlett, and myself, Merrylin LeBlanc. Our names will be listed with it as well. And for a slight fee, you can purchase a link to the Zoom session the day after Christmas, December 26th, Saturday, actually beginning an hour after Moonwise ends. We will have that Zoom session and you can be a part of it, which means that there will be a point at which you could even ask us questions. You'll be the big family Zoom of astrologers and people who really enjoy and love the information they get from astrologers. So jot that down, brownpapertickets.com. Next, we'll hear from Aaron Sullivan. Aaron, what do you have to say about 2021?
Well, my little blurb towards what we'll talk about, I'm going to be talking about Hades and his ladies. Now, Hades is actually the Greek name for Pluto. Pluto is the god of the underworld. And he was the son of Cronus and Rhea, the brother of the deities Zeus, Poseidon, Demeter, Hera, and Hestia. And so Hades, in the ancient Greek religion and myth, is the god of the dead and the king of the underworld, and with which his name became synonymous. He was the eldest son of Cronus and Rhea, and the last was seen, the last son of Cronos, who was Zeus, was actually eaten by his father and then regurgitated. His mother actually got him to give it up. And so the other god, the wife of Hades, is Persephone, and she is called also the Kore, the maiden, and she's the daughter of Zeus and Demeter, and she became queen of the underworld through her abduction of Hades, because Hades like roared up in his exotic black carriage and took advantage of this young girl who had been a schoolgirl when all of them were out together. She'd been warned by her instructor and her mother not to leave her group, but being an independent young teenager, she wandered off because she saw these beautiful flowers. And so she was sniffing the flowers, the narcissus, which is always now associated with the abduction. And in the course of doing that, Hades had taken advantage of the situation, roared up, snatched her, and took her into the underworld. And he fell, and he actually he fell in love with her because he just saw this beautiful woman. And the caretaker of the earth, Demeter, she was absolutely terrified and furious, and she got Hecate to assist her in searching for Persephone. But in the meantime, what her punishment was to Hades was to shut the earth down into permanent winter. Now, this sounds to me very similar to the pandemic that's going on right now, as if the planet has been purged, needs to purge itself of billions and billions of people, and all of the various aspects of the mistreatment of Mother Earth is coming through this mythology clear to me. And, being a mythographer and an astrologer, Pluto, of course, is the god in the horoscope, who is considered to be the god of the unconscious and the underworld above our minds. But this punishment of permanent winter just struck me as being, it's chilling when you think of it, because here we are now in the pandemic that's been now global. We don't really know how many people have been affected by death, but this is the whole issue around Pluto, Hades, and his ladies. And so I was going to be speaking more deeply on this situation because Hecate is the goddess of magic and witchcraft as well. And so we might need to have, the night and the moon and the ghosts of necromancy of the dead coming up and helping us with their histories and their pasts. And so for us to be doing research and thinking back over times where there have been these pandemics, and there have been periodically in thousands of years, periods of time wherein the earth was completely and utterly shut down. And now we have it in the midst of us in modern day times. And some of us are able to survive it, but other people will not. And so when I laughingly said Hades and his ladies, I didn't realize how serious I actually was. They rhyme, but they also don't. And so that's where I think that in the situation where we're in now, in this world, the metamorphosis of the Hades and Demeter and Hecate and um, his daughter, her daughter, Persephone. Thank you very much. Yeah, every so often one does forget things. Yeah, so in this time frame, this metamorphosis myth describes the origins of the animal familiars and the various people. And so what I'll be doing on the 26th is we're going to be talking about the various other aspects and the very close, intimate relationships in Greek mythology and astrology of Hecate and Persephone and Hades and his ladies.
Well, Erin, I look forward to your talk, especially as we're seeing more and more women empowered in this world to take their proper place. And the mythology actually speaks to that as well in terms of the compromises that were made in that mythology. And for those of you out there, if you're interested as well in what we will be talking about at this event, you can join us in this Zoom session by going to brownpapertickets.com and search for The Gates of Hell Are Open, and you'll see our names. And for a slight fee, you can get a link to this event. We're working on hopefully being able to transfer the link to you when you're purchasing, but we're not sure that will happen. It might happen a little later, but hopefully it'll be soon after you've made that purchase. And it's a very slight fee to support this kind of work that we astrologers are doing here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And with that, I want to remind you that you're listening to Moonwise here on KSFR 101.1 FM or streaming on the web at ksfr.org, where you can always support this radio station, ksfr.org. There's a donate button up there in the right-hand corner that you can click and get a secure line to do that. And whatever amount you can give is appreciated. And you can also, under the program tab on that homepage, find podcasts, and you can listen to Moonwise, this show, share it with your friends. Maybe they'll join you on Zoom for this event, which is the day after Christmas, Saturday, December 26th at 12 noon Mountain Time. That's our time here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. After this brief break, we'll be back shortly. Welcome back to Moonwise. I'm Merrylin LeBlanc, and today we're talking about an event that four of us astrologers are doing here in Santa Fe, New Mexico on the day after Christmas, December 26th at 12 noon. This is separate from my Moonwise show. There'll be a Moonwise show on the 26th. And then if you want to join us on Zoom, you can go to brownpapertickets.com and for a slight fee, get a link to the Zoom session in which you will hear us talk at length about different topics. You've heard about two of them, but both of them involving goddesses. One, the goddess Eris, and the other Demeter and Persephone and Hecate and other goddesses involved with the dark world, the dark side of things, and not dark. Dark is not necessarily about evil, actually. There are amazing things that happen in the dark. And so I don't think of this as all that negative. Amazing things come out of bad things as well, amazingly good things.
Yes.
And so there's two more of us that will be speaking. You can always go to that podcast if you missed the first part of the show. Michael Bartlett, what are you going to be talking about at this event?
Hi, Merrylin. Thanks. I just want to also let everyone know that the Zoom talk will be recorded. So if for some reason you're busy the day after Christmas, this makes a lot of sense because it's the holidays. You'll be able to get the recording. You won't have the opportunity to ask live questions of us at the time, but you will get to have the recording, which you'll be able to review at any time throughout the year. When I look at next year, I kind of see it as basically kind of an unfolding of this year. And my topic is going to be surviving and thriving in challenging times. It's very interesting. You kind of alluded it to it a little bit, Merrylin. When things happen in life, there are cycles, of course, and astrology teaches us that very easily. And so in those cycles, when life may appear to be challenging and hard to some people, there's something that awakens in other people, and it calls forth a greatness in us. I think this is one of those times that it's calling forth for us to find within ourselves a better way to be in human, in right human relationship with one another. When I look at next year, overall I see an air theme. We're dealing with a pandemic, which is airborne. We're all kind of caught up in our own thoughts and our own ideologies. Saturn and Jupiter and Pluto are in Capricorn, but as you said, Merrylin, on the 21st, Jupiter and Saturn will be moving into Aquarius for the great mutation, the great conjunction everyone's speaking of on the equinox. It's going to be a very powerful transition. We're already seeing inklings of it. I mean, here we are. We usually do this talk in person to a live audience of around 100, 150 people. We're very excited at the opportunity to be able to do this to anyone who's available to watch it around the world. And this is an example of that change into air, changing from that concreteness of Capricorn, that groundedness, into kind of coming up with better ideas. The challenging part, and I like that, Daniel talked about it a little bit, because, one aspect of it is the Saturn Uranus square. The good news is it's the traditional and the modern ruler of Aquarius that are squaring one another. So again, it has to do with, how do we find new forms, shockingly new forms, that's Uranus and Taurus, in order for us to relate to one another in a more equal manner. If we look at the glyph of Aquarius, it's like an equal sign that's, got a lot of up and down. And we can see that as electronic waves. We can just see that as the natural patterns of up and down that go on in life. But the real key is for us to kind of find the ways in which our individual ideology can fit into the collective. I think for those of us who have had to be contained during this time, during the pandemic, something that happens very easily when we're all alone in our homes is to come up with lots of ideas on how the world is. And when you're being fed a lot of false information, hello, air again, this is, the problem with air. As it can be changed. The story, if you've ever played, what was it called, telephone when you're a kid, you start around in a circle and you whisper something into one kid, by the time he gets around, it's a whole different story. We're seeing examples of that, all over the place. And I think, it's going to take this level of responsibility for each of us to find out what the facts are and what is our individual truth, and is our individual truth somehow negating other people's individual truth. The other remarkable thing that happens, is a way to additionally underline the air element, is that we're having 3 Mercury retrogrades, and they're happening in each one of the 3 air signs. I think that, coupled with solar flares that are going on, we're going to be seeing disruptions in communication. And again, that's going to require us to be a little more responsible. It might be, like for instance, with this is now our 3rd attempt to record this show. Finding flexibility in ourselves in order to be in relationship to what it is that's getting present, as opposed to getting fixed. The hard part, I love what Aaron always says, this great saying about Aquarian, the smaller the idea, the more petty the Aquarian, the larger the idea, the more grand the Aquarian. And that's what this time period is really about. We need to be grand. We need to be inclusive. We need to find a way that doesn't allow 1% to gain wealth that is not even possibly spent within a lifetime, within 3 lifetimes. There's no reason that anyone needs to be given that when there are so many people in need. There is enough for everyone on the planet, and we need to manage our resources appropriately.
Well, Michael, as another air sign, my fellow Aquarian sun sign, I look forward to hearing more about how we can thrive during the year 2021. And for all of you out there who are curious and hungry for more information about what's ahead, go to brownpapertickets.com. Look for The Gates of Hell Are Open and purchase for a slight fee a link to this Zoom event, which means you will be a part of it. There will be a time in which you can ask us questions. If you, as one of or two couple of you might have said this, if for some reason you're not available on the day after Christmas, December 26th at 12 p.m., to join us live in that Zoom session, you'll still get that link if you've purchased admittance, and you will be able to listen to it anytime throughout the year and to remind you of the things that we have to say. I will be addressing the new 20-year cycle of the planets Jupiter and Saturn that begins this Monday, the day of the winter solstice. When these two planets come together, there are several things that can be triggered. Their cycles are about expansion and contraction, or dharma and karma. What does one individual or a group hope to accomplish anyhow? Will they succeed at doing that? Last year, when I talked about this coming new cycle, I gave an example of the billionaire class wanting to control the world's resources. The cycle that's ending began in 2000 in the sign of Taurus, the sign of natural resources and money, at the degree symbolized by a jewelry store. Over the past 20 years, and even more so in this past year, the moneyed class has increased their booty exceedingly. Jupiter enlarges and Saturn defines. Saturn is an authority figure, and in the Greek mythology, he was Jupiter's father. To please his mother, Jupiter had to play a dirty trick on his father, one he didn't want done to him, since his father did that to his grandfather. That's a tale of family karma. What goes around comes around. So Jupiter is very careful about ending that karma, and now goes along with Saturn to stay alive and keep the peace. So 20 years ago, with a flourishing economy after the Clinton administration, Saturn in Taurus, the money sign, said, things are pretty good. Let's keep this status quo. But capitalism can only go so far. There are limits to its growth. So it has been throughout its reign in history. We had a recession as that cycle of Jupiter and Saturn reached its fullness. Capitalism's karma. Depressions, recessions, whatever you want to name them. Hope and some recovery happened with the Obama administration. But this present cycle is ending with Trump's administration, which has left the moneyed class with more, but the majority of us don't even seem to have access to a jewelry store. Over the past 3 years, the balsamic phase of this Jupiter-Saturn cycle, Jupiter has shown us our duty, the Dharma, by an abundance of disasters that need to be dealt with. Hurricanes, floods, and fires, and lies and exaggerated lies that most well-educated people recognize. Both Jupiter and Saturn are teachers, and they've been educating us about the climate, about prejudice and racial divides, and the lack of critical thinking, and the lack of shared resources. The goddesses whom Jupiter cannot resist are telling us that we're killing Gaia, and she's unleashed blaring memos, storms, and fire. In this new cycle, she tells us to keep in mind the lessons of the past and learn new ones about what it means to be in relationship to one another. So that's my talk. If you want to hear more from all four of us on the day after Christmas, December 26th at 12 noon Mountain Time, go to Brown Paper Tickets. That's brownpapertickets.com. If you'd use a search engine and just put Brown Paper Tickets, you'll find us. And look for the gates of hell are open on that site, and you can purchase for a slight fee an admission to, the admission will be a link to that particular Zoom session. So any last words from any one of you? We have just a minute left.
I just want to say that there will be no movies to go to this year, so please join us.
That's a good one.
No
Yes, we're all
Chinese
film
Christmas.
stars. We're all film stars now because we have to stay home. We're all sitting in our book-laden offices. Merrylin's down at the station, I think. But
Yes.
yeah, we're all pretty much apprehended, if you will. It is a time of incredible isolation, and this is something that we need to really, I think, try and avoid, because isolation can make one absolutely crazy. The situation is bad enough as it is without being alone and lonely and missing people. And so reaching out and talking to someone at least every day is really, really important. And so don't let yourselves fall into a depression.
Right. So we hope to see you all on December 26th, a week from now, day after Christmas, 12 o'clock, brownpapertickets.com. Bye.